the BuzzFeed, like if you watch the confirmation hearings today, if you actually watched them, they were, well, first of all, Jeff, no, let's start with the confirmation hearings. Who do you want to start with first? Where should we start?
I mean, we can start with Tillerson. I mean, because Tillerson started today, even though session started yesterday, we can start with Tillerson.
I will say this though, if BuzzFeed is going to start publishing fan fiction, I'm going to send them some stuff I've been working on.
And it's so funny. I was just thinking like a couple of days ago, I was like, oh, we need PA fan fiction, but please, if we start doing PA fan fiction, don't have me defecating or peeing anyone or anyone doing such things on me. Like let's just leave that all out of
my Harry Potter fan fiction is on point, like 100%, 100%.
You have Harry Potter fan fiction.
Let's start with Tillerson. Let's start with Tillerson. So I think it's safe to say that when it came to Tillerson, everyone embarrassed themselves except for Rand Paul and to a certain extent Cory Booker. Marco Rubio, Markey from Senator Markey from Massachusetts, Merkley, was Merkley there too? Yeah, they kept pushing this sort of to more or less extent this sort of these conspiracy theories about Russia. Like it became the Russia story again, where contrary to that, Rand Paul actually brought up things that matter. Rand Paul actually brought up, well, what was your opinion about the Iraq War, and like why has your opinion changed? Cory Booker, since he's decided to run for president in 2020, like went in hard. This is Cory Booker proving that he is able to run for president, and that's fine. I will say this though, it really doesn't take anything, and this is the lesson to take away from. I know a lot of people are so proud of Cory Booker and so proud of these senators who are standing up to Tillerson and standing up to, well, not really Tillerson so much, but standing up to specifically Jeff Sessions. People like John Lewis, right. Black Caucus. Counterintuitively, it actually doesn't take much to stand up to monsters. At least in politics, it doesn't take much to stand up to Trump and Jeff Sessions, because Jeff Sessions is kind of a monster. Trump is kind of a monster in a very overt way. And I know they're like, Cory Booker is cutting his teeth trying to get his progressive bona fides by like holding Sessions' feet to the fire. That's great. But where is he going to be a few months from now? I'm not a few months from now, next week, or actually, where DeVos, I've never heard her name pronounced out loud.
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, Betsy DeVos is going up for confirmation. Like, where is he going to be then? Because we know what her position is on issues of education, and we know that she is woefully. Well, she's going to privatize everything. Like that. Like that's what she's going to try to do. Yeah. Same with Elaine Chao, who also kind of cruised through, and people are like, well, she has this very, very problematic rhetoric on privatization, and so it comes back to the same thing we always talk about here, that our senators, our government are very good at taking these symbolic stances, these performative stances where they stand up to like the monster, they stand up to the excesses of the system. But when it comes down to it, they're like they have no backbone to actually stand up to like the actual problematic elements of it. They don't want to stand up to privatization. They don't want to stand up to Wall Street. They don't want to stand up to any of these things. Or let's go back to Tillerson. His position on climate change was so problematic, like so absolutely problematic here.
Like I just from what I saw, just from like I said again, talking with Sam earlier, from listening to you recount now, like just the fact that this whole Russia thing again, right, has taken such precedence, considering all the things that are going on right now, considering, and I do understand the concern, but just even thinking about Tillerson's like potential conflicts and business ties, I just saw an article earlier that was saying that, ExxonMobil, like there's some type of loophole and he really didn't actually sever ties completely the way, he was supposed to. There's just so many issues that are like really pressing matters that need to be addressed. And it's just like, nope, Russia, because this is what we're going to ask about until we get into the real issues. You have we have things like pressing matters that could be considered, that should be considered, that it takes forever before we get to anything, whether it's climate change or whatever the case may be, as a real serious focus while we're in this confirmation hearing. And the level of softballing that has been involved as well is problematic. I mean, how can you proclaim that we have to resist Trump and this, that, and the other, and yet and still we're gonna be polite and do unto others as you have them do to you, and it's just like that. This is how Democrats continue to lose. Like, this is why Democrats continue to lose, because people will buy out from underneath you. They will do what they need to do. They don't care about, oh, my turn, your turn, sharing and caring. Nah, Republicans are in this to win it. And until Democrats and those who align with them understand that and actually begin to start making changes accordingly, they're going to continue to lose.
Well, the Democratic Party, I don't really want to get into the bipartisanship of this whole thing because, still on Tillerson. Tillerson's response as someone who worked at Exxon for 42 years. He's only ever worked at Exxon. And his response to climate change is so incredibly problematic insofar that he recognizes that it's a thing, kind of, unlike the appointees for the EPA. The EPA, which, hey, whatever. But he doesn't think it can be fought. He doesn't think it can be fought with man-made technology. He says that we're unsure. Climate science is unsure about the extent of the threat. At the same time, we know about the implications of Exxon when it comes to sowing disinformation about climate change. This is what they were doing in the 90s while he was working there. And he was questioning this as well. When people asked, well, what do you know about the fact, what do you know about the fact that Exxon, as you were working there, was paying climate scientists to produce false information in muddy the waters regarding climate science? The same thing that the tobacco industry was doing to muddy the waters around the link between cigarette smoking and lung cancer, which they were eventually sued for and eventually were forced to pay money for. And again, this was another, vague money answer that no one really understood. I don't really know. It's like, how could someone be running for? How could someone be an appointee for the cabinet of the state, but he knows so little about the world? Like, he knows so little about climate science. And he represents such a large threat to the world as a result. And he comes out with, the Pentagon doesn't really think it's a national security threat. Like, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
The fact that we're even asking your Secretary of State about climate change is amazing. Because remember last year when Bernie mentioned climate change, as a thing, not just an environmental thing, but as a security concern, folks scoffed and laughed at him, but it really is a serious issue. And like you said, having someone who has this experience, who should be able to give a better, more reasonable response, like who helped prep you? Like, you should have known, like, some of these questions would be issues and there should be a much stronger response. But the problem is, no matter how poor the responses are, I don't see him not getting confirmed.
A lot. Of course,
it's just gonna be a dragged out process.
Absolutely, because a lot of this is just theater. Like, let's be honest, a lot of this is just theater for the Democrats to pretend as though they are holding people accountable, and that's what Cory Booker was up there doing. He was like, oh my gosh, like, watch me grill these people. I'm gonna roast these guys. I'm gonna roast them. And at the end, he's just like, oh well, I'm sure you'll be confirmed eventually. Look forward to working with you. It's just like, and that's that kind of duplicitousness that we have to confront as people who are not in politics, or rather who are not in the government. This sort of, with one hand on one side, out of one side of their mouth, they're putting on this large performance for their base. Look how progressive Cory Booker is. Cory Wall Street Booker is. Look how progressive he is. Like, he's really roasting that avowed KKK member. Like, he's the bravest. It's like, no, come on. These are low hanging fruits. Like, these are the low hanging fruits of our systemic issues. People like Jeff Sessions. And it comes down to, well, can we count on Cory Booker to, when the chips are down, to also oppose Chuck Schumer? Can we count on him to also oppose Betsy DeVos? Or, well, he didn't oppose Elaine Chao, because Elaine Chao kind of cruised through. Like, can we count on the Congressional Black Caucus? Because where were they when Black wealth was actually, plummeting over Obama? They were nowhere, because that's not going to earn them any points.
Well, it's also because we don't require it, right? Like you said, it's not going to earn them points, but we don't require it. And it is so easy to everybody pile on because this is the bad thing and we all got to renounce the bad thing. But it does take a certain unique sense of not just courage, but conviction to be able to stand on one's 2 feet, to stand for the lesser known or lesser supported issues that are out there. And again, at this point, we're talking about people, even the difference of just asking questions, because even when we go back to the rush stuff, it's just asking questions. Like the idea of asking a question and questioning the judgment and the sanctity of these institutions is like blasphemy. You can't do that, except for, you know, the different ways, my speech, other stuff, I can. And we have every right to ask these questions. We have every right to demand, you know, contact your senators, contact those on the hearing committee. Make sure people understand what your position is, what your points are, and why. Like, it's just so wild what's going on right now.
Absolutely. A really good example of this is the Tillerson line of questioning. That was the point in which, like, people were, I'm sorry, not to Tillerson. Yes, it was Tillerson. I get a little bit confused about this. When people sort of were a bit lukewarm about it. No, I'm sorry. Again, Tillerson refused to speak out about the Philippines, the president of the Philippines, Duterte, and people were sort of aghast about that. Obviously the president of the Philippines is completely out of his mind. Let's put it out that way. His drug war is killing hundreds of thousands of people. But then you have someone like John Kelly, who's getting up for the Department of Homeland Security, and he's praising the drug war in South America. Like, he's praising the drug war that's going on in South America. He's praising it, and it's just as brutal, and it is just as brutal and just as inhumane as the drug war going on in the Philippines. And it's this hypocrisy here. This idea that, well, this drug war in the Philippines is a problem, but the drug war in South America is not because of reasons.